Well, good evening, young men, and I'd like to join Teak Nation in offering my congratulations on your commencement. It's a wonderful accomplishment. Having a son that just graduated this year from college has allowed our family to share in this unique experience. And he was just commissioned as a second lieutenant in the United States Army this past week in a virtual ceremony. Never been done before. But I think this new normal that we're in the middle of, as I see it, provides a wealth of opportunity for you. And the great news is, you're at the tip of the spear as we continue to reshape how we respond to this crisis. And having met some of you, I couldn't be more pleased that you're the generation that's stepping up. Now, I thought about what I could share with you that would maybe offer you some insights into what the near term might look for you, maybe offer you some thoughts while shaving that allow you to understand that I recognize the journey you're embarking on now can appear to be uncertain, unpredictable, and in some instances, downright scary. Truth be told, I understand. The good news is, beginnings are always exciting if you approach them as challenges. Now, I'm certain you're aware that even the lowest ranking graduate from a medical school is called doctor, although I'm not sure I'd schedule an appointment with them. Still, this is equally true with you as recent graduates. No matter if you're a valedictorian, a Prytanis, or a distinguished graduate, you all start from the same set of starting blocks in your respective journeys. So as you begin, know that good or bad, your career before now will not define you. Now, each of you are responsible to set the ask and the pace for your individual careers starting now. What I do believe, though, is you're prepared. Both your academic experience and your time as a Teak led you to this moment. So let's carve out a few minutes to break this down into the blocking and tackling of the next chapter. Julius Caesar said, "Experience is the teacher of all things." So in that vein, let me share with you some of mine. Now, I think there are three elements to success, regardless of where you're at on life's journey. First, a commitment to excellence. Second, an ability to predict and to manage adversity. And third, an unwavering belief in a set of values to guide you on your journey. So let's break each of these down. First, a commitment to excellence. During my management career, one of the most fundamental lessons I learned about how to deliver strong performance couldn't have been more simple and titled. Expect excellence. Set the tone early in your career by adopting a purposeful, deliberate approach, making yourselves accountable to deliver results. Once you gain a reputation as a fair and balanced employee or leader that sets high performance standards from the folks you're working with, the message gets out. So I thought I might take a moment to share with you what I think excellence is, and maybe more importantly, what it is not. First, I believe at its core, excellence requires you to, either as a follower or a leader, to visualize, describe, and direct. Visualize an outcome, describe the boundaries of action, and then direct action and resources to achieve the outcome. Sound simple? Trust me, it is not. However, what I have found is most plans rarely survive their first encounter with adversity. And overwhelmingly, the root cause for this failure ties to a violently executed plan that was poorly planned. How do we recognize this early? Well, the old adage of a failure to plan is a plan to fail works very well here. The great leaders I've worked for understand to visualize, describe, and direct requires the linkage too. They all have to be connected in the plan and in the execution. In the military, we use the 1/3, 2/3 rule. If an operation was due to kick off in a few days, the remaining time was split. I and my staff used 1/3 of the time to provide my guidance, my vision, my boundaries, and my prescriptive direction. And I left 2/3 of the remaining time for the units downstream to create their plans. But from time to time, it is a good leader that stays connected as the teams are doing their planning, to be accessible and approachable, to, now be careful here, because I caution against the tendency for some to blend in the need to micromanage every detail. This is a false bottom. And while you think you might be helping the team, what you are in fact doing is choking down creativity. And creativity is the secret sauce. Now, as a leader, you have to subordinate yourself to the process to arrive at excellence. And this means sometimes the best answers aren't your own. Now, I took great pride in the fact that my team felt comfortable enough to work our way through to an excellent solution. And what I had to do was set the rules, enable the dialogue, and keep the discussion moving to a resolution. Visualize, describe, direct. And finally, start on time. And never let a drive for perfection ruin a perfectly good plan. What else is excellence? It is a purposefully hard bar to reach. It has to be. Otherwise, we'd call it mediocrity, wouldn't we? So how do we set conditions for success? First, be all in with your career field. Be tactically and technically proficient. If you're going to be a businessman, be the best damn capitalist you can be. If you're going to be a social servant, aim to be the most capable provider you can be. Master your profession. As an individual, this is the single most important element to excellence. As a new leader, the nuance now, you have to temper that individual search for excellence through a team lens. This makes it even more difficult, as now all of the complicating factors of team management introduce themselves into the excellence equation. For me, I think the greatest danger here is not recognizing that our teams, while they strive for excellence, won't always reach it. But there is tremendous value in the journey, and oftentimes leaders just don't recognize this. But rest assured, if you are willing to underwrite reasonable risk for your team, the effort provides so many teachable, coachable moments. But this requires the leader to broaden their aperture, though. And young leaders, they're just not comfortable sometimes in their own skin yet. So you have to practice. But it ain't all art, guys. There's a lot of science to excellence. And the science of excellence is the great equalizer, because it doesn't necessarily take age and experience to use science as a tool. Again, read above. Be an expert. By the time Einstein turned 26, he'd published 4 groundbreaking papers. One on the photoelectric effect, one on Brownian motion, one on special relativity, and one on the equivalence of mass and energy, which brought him great acclaim in the academic world at 26 years old. What is excellence not? It is not perfection. There's no perfection in life. I'm not sure where you are in your spiritual journey, so forgive my departure, but where I come from, there was only one perfect being. The point is, excellence is seldom found in an event. It's usually at the close of a long, arduous journey, accompanied by failures in the trip. The lead towards excellence requires a deliberate, agile, and learning approach. What else is excellent not? Guys, it's not a spectator sport. Lead from the front. Leaders who expect excellence by sitting on the sidelines are doomed to fail. But let me share with you a lesson as important. In your journey, learn how to be a great follower before you become a good leader. The art of excellence is knowing when you have to make a decision to be one or the other. So what's the second element? This is learning to manage adversity. Booker T. Washington wrote, "Success is to be measured not so much by the position that one has reached in life as by the obstacles which he's overcome." Now, each of us face adversity from time to time, although some of us seem to be more adaptable to adversity, while others draw inward and allow their fears to call the next decision. The ability to hurdle obstacles is not something that can be easily learned, and I would argue there are no such animals as built for adversity. Rather, the difference is the ones who move through these tough times, generally speaking, have expected this roadblock, and through their ability to understand the variable risks they're likely to encounter, are able to practice against adversity. How do they do this? Well, the ability to move to the high ground mentally is the first step. Understand that this too shall pass, and believe it. Now, my intent is not to sound Pollyannish about crises, rather to reinforce the power of positive thinking, not to be confused with blindly attacking problems. Generally, these folks spend the right amount of time processing their experience, and then they move out smartly. Their mental resilience lifts them up to pursue opportunities instead of wallowing in self-despair. Now, here are a few ways in my military career that I've been able to witness this. 1, preparation identifies those potential minefields. Disraeli once said, "I am prepared for the worst, but I hope for the best." I call it planning to the extremes. When faced with challenges, your plan should always assume 2 potential courses of action. First, catastrophic success. That's right. What happens if I far and away exceed the goal? Am I ready for the potential consequences? General Buford Blount, in the move to take Baghdad in the Second Gulf War, moved through the battle space to the high ground on the far side of the city in record time, not expecting to be in possession of this ground this quickly, and the team was ill prepared for what came next. Citizens that were so waiting to be liberated, we didn't have a plan for it. To his credit, General Blount shared that with young leaders so we could learn from his experience. Second, plan for catastrophic failure. Understand the likely consequences and the corresponding effects. Start developing the various options to manage through a cascade of events that literally start spinning downward. This mental preparation will reveal valuable must-dos in the plan in order to avoid the extreme. And now that you have planned for both ends of the continuum, it is likely the outcome will be somewhere in between. And if you're prepared for the far left and the far right, the journey between those two becomes much more manageable. Second, embrace purposeful passion. Nothing like being all in. Think about it. Consider the one thing in your life that elicits overwhelming passion. And imagine, if you will, if we all were to invest ourselves in this purposeful mindset about the basic challenges we face day to day. Think about that. Is passion faked? Nope, not possible. Is it just something you can dial up? No. It is the result of your unwavering commitment to a person, a purpose, or an outcome. The basic requirements that lead to this purposeful, passionate mindset are a healthy dose of optimism and a belief in your capabilities to effect a positive result, and an utter refusal to give in or give up. And there are countless stories in our military that typify this. But here's what it boils down to. Our victories in battle, our very way of life, are owed not to historic moments or significant dates. These victories were the result of the actions and sacrifices of those men and women who were willing to step into the breach for their country and for the cause of freedom, and they overcame adversity under the most dire of situations, literally staring into the realization of their own mortality. We see this in action today in the midst of this pandemic. People who put the nation's interest above their own, who put patriotism above profit, and who live a love for their country and ignore a love of self. Make peace with your circumstances and learn. That's number 2. It is almost as certain that at some point you will make mistakes. Some of these, they're going to be doozies. The worst way to handle this is to pivot, to look for a place to park the blame. Equally, setting yourself on fire as a penance, that's foolhardy as well. Instead, take the time to accept your current state. Note, I did not say accept an inevitable. Quite the opposite. Once we understand the decisions that led us to an adverse situation and own them, we can start thinking clearly about how to maneuver to a higher ground. As well, the effort involved in this introspection is an opportunity to learn, and this never stops. Even more, if you're part of a team, you would be surprised at how quickly the team will gel around a leader that accepts that mantle. I can remember a time when my boy Chipper, who played lacrosse in high school, tried out for a state select team. He talked to 2 of his buddies into trying out, and you guessed it, they made it, he didn't. I can remember watching him as a young man, looking for the why. So I broke out an old notebook I carried for years. In the front, 2 pages were all the great things I thought I did in sports. Lots of room on those pages. In the back were several pages of misses. And out to the side of those, my summary as to why. And I need only look in the mirror to find the root cause. Then I turned to the middle of the book and showed him that for each one of these failures, there was a next chapter. And in some instances, the items on the first pages were a direct result of the actions I took after I failed. So what's the third element? How about this? Values matter. Now for all of us, fortunate to have lived this TKE undergraduate experience, there is a not-so-hidden gem that prepared us and will prepare you for your future journey. Until now, for some, the thought of framing your life under core values has been, let's just say, a muscle that's been exercised not near to its potential. After all, love, charity, and esteem should not be just 3 words that simply bind each individual to another TKE. While that, in and of itself, would be pretty righteous. I think for me, the opportunity to truly understand how core values shape your life started with those 3 words. But to be honest, I'm not certain my TKE journey that I really lived the core values. I knew them, I understood them, but I don't think I did my level best to really live the core values of the fraternity while I was an undergraduate. Cards on the table. But let me tell you the beauty of that piece of introspect. When I commissioned in the Army, the commanding officer of my first unit handed me a card that listed the Army core values: loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, personal courage. And I distinctly remember the point in time that crystallized the importance that these values brought to shaping not only my career, but my life. And were it not for my recognition that I had not done as good a job elevating love, charity, and esteem during my time as an undergrad, I would have had zero appreciation for just how important having core values really are. And more importantly, framing a career, and I'd like to think a life, that used these values as waypoints, guardrails, whatever boundary descriptor you'd like to use. The final lesson of the value proposition is the one I'll borrow from a story I read in the paper. Now, I hope all of you heard the story of America's greatest athlete. And no, it's not LeBron James. A young man named Jim Thorpe. At the 1912 Stockholm Olympics, Jim Thorpe won both the pentathlon and track and field's premier event, the decathlon. Gustav V, the King of Sweden, met Jim and said, "You, sir, I am now certain are the greatest athlete in the world." To which Jim Thorpe very simply replied, "Thanks, King." Now the point here is, say thanks. Make it a habit to find one person a day and offer them your thanks, and mean it. You can't know just how much a difference it makes when leaders recognize the efforts of the individuals who make their business your success. You know, my grandmother used to tell me, a great education can't replace good manners and values. Now, during my time in the fraternity, I learned to appreciate that in order to succeed, it wasn't enough just to expect success. Once we'd achieved a goal, we celebrated the victory, no matter how small. Why? Well, we were a fairly small chapter that faced a number of struggles, like I am certain some of you on this call can appreciate. And I distinctly remember over a cold beverage or two with some of my closest fraternity brothers talking about those struggles, and often wondering aloud, why are we doing this? Why are we taking on these challenges? Where's the upside? And the conversations invariably turned back to the tie that binds us to this day. It was our journey, our struggle, our values, and not just mine. And from that moment on, I learned to say thank you, and really mean it. It might sound like an oversimplification, but think about it. The power of those two words. Teak taught me to be grateful, to be humble, and to celebrate success no matter how small. Frauders, it's now time to live my own lessons and tell you thank you. Thanks for allowing me the opportunity to share this evening with you. I really do hope you enjoyed my speech, and if you didn't, I hope you had a good nap. Now, allow me to send you off with a parting thought. President John Adams once wrote, "If your actions inspire others to dream more, to do more, and become more, then you are a leader." Powerful words, but you have to be asking yourself, how? Teak men should be known as men of action, men of purpose, men of humble character, servant leaders that understand the greater good and work to advance this mission in the time our Creator allows for us to serve. Living this life, your life and service, advances our Teak mission. No, really. You know why? Because you will absolutely connect with individuals in your chosen career that will be curious about your fraternity experience. For them, it will either confirm or debunk a preconceived notion or two about how the experience can serve to shape one of their loved ones. Learn to apply the lessons of love, charity, and esteem as you move onward into this great journey. You know, I've gotten much better in my old age with this, and I have been rewarded richly for understanding that to serve is the greatest reward. My benefit? The opportunity to serve and to serve again. God bless you. And frauders, I love the fraternity.